Welcome, everybody. Today is going to be fun, I hope, for everyone. I hope there's something everyone takes home with them. We're going to talk, the title of the talk today is Make the Phone Ring. And the idea of the conversation we're going to have today is to discuss some strategies to help you attract, convert, and retain customers. So there's three stages of the process, right? We need to get people to notice us. We then need to have them actually convert into a customer. And then once they're a customer, we need to retain that customer. So we're going to talk about some strategies today to sort of hopefully help you do that more effectively, really without spending a whole lot of marketing dollars. A little bit about my background. I literally have written a book called Make the Phone Ring, and I will give you a download to that, or I'll give Ronnie a download or something somewhere. We'll send a link to where you can download that for free. I'm what you call a serial entrepreneur. So I've owned many companies, sort of built those companies, and then fortunately for me, I guess, sold those companies successfully to someone else. And I think that's the dream of every entrepreneur. There's really two paths we want to take. Usually, it's either to build it and sell it, or build it and then pass it on to our children in a legacy way. And both of those journeys should be fairly enjoyable. So in this stage of my career, my mission really is to pass along the knowledge I learned the hard way by bumping my ankles and bumping my head into some of the potholes you run into in life. And so I do a lot of writing in the Coach magazine you see there. I've written a book. I'm in the middle of writing my second book, more on KPIs, something we'll talk a little bit about today. And I work with one-on-one with entrepreneurs to sort of help them build their organizations, right? So when I started out to write the book, I really did it because I found that in my business and in some of the businesses that I counsel, the people are focused really in these upper areas. You really need to be very proficient in 5 areas to be successful in business. Operations obviously is that day to day. And as a business owner, a lot of business owners get sucked into operations and become what I call the chief employee of their own company. So rather than being the leader of their company or the owner of their company, they get sucked into operations, pricing, and finance, and these upper 2 quadrants up here. And they don't spend enough time really down in the marketing and customer conversion and retention areas. Whoops, sorry, that should have not moved yet. And what we're going to talk about today is this bottom part of the pie, so to speak, and how we can do a better job of taking care of that part. So when people think about marketing, they usually focus in on, particularly today, on digital marketing. But and digital marketing is just insanely complicated sometimes, right? There's a lot of moving parts to it. Social media, which is a completely different workshop we could do one day, maybe. It's a wild world out there of digital marketing. So as a result, a lot of business owners end up outsourcing that, right? They outsource that to somebody, and that marketing company really, again, focuses on digital marketing. But what we're going to talk about today is a more straightforward way to network your company and build that company outside of the digital world. And I really will talk very little about digital marketing today. Not that that's not a topic that's important, not that you shouldn't have a social media presence or a web presence. And we'll talk a little bit about web presence. But there's very effective ways to build your company by working with other people, getting your message right, building relationships, and sharing sort of that building of the company and the marketing of the company with other companies that are out there that are just like you. So in my experience, most business owners are sort of overwhelmed by the whole marketing piece. They get sort of sucked in they're spending a lot of money. They're not getting the return they really want on those dollars. And they get sort of overwhelmed. They're sort of like, what do I do here? How do I make this happen? And honestly, in a company's life, it's sort of a journey that they go on every so often. When you reach certain, usually revenue plateaus, you get stuck again, right? We did this, we did it really well. We got to this revenue point and we just got stuck there. And I need to do something different, to sort of move on. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the 80-20 rule. Everybody knows what the 80-20 rule, but in this presentation, we're going to say 80% of the revenue that your company gets comes from 20% of the activity that you do on a daily basis. So 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of the activity you do on a daily basis. And that activity needs to be focused in 5 key areas. And this is when you're working on the business versus in the business. We've all heard it. We all get stuck working in the business, but working on the business is really, you have to spend your time in these 5 areas, right? We need to generate more leads. We need to then convert those leads into customers, which is really sales, not marketing. So we'll talk a little bit about sales as well. More transactions per customer. We're going to spend a little time on there. And I think you're going to be surprised by some of the things you can do to take a single product company and make it a multi-product company. Higher dollar values per sale for the customer. Lots of people are very fearful of raising their prices. I'm going to lose all my customers. I worked with a bakery owner just recently, and when we went through what their margins were on the various baked good products, they were losing money on half of them. And they were losing money on half of them because they failed to realize that their cost for simple things like eggs and butter and flour had gone up exponentially in this market we find ourselves in today. And they hadn't correspondingly raised their price because they were afraid that the customers might not come into the bakery anymore. And the long and the short of it is, we went through an increase in price. We got them each product more profitable, and they didn't lose a single customer. So it's scary to raise your pricing, but it's necessary, particularly in a market like we're in today. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And ultimately, everything there leads to higher profits. So in the book, we go through a presentation, basically, that of a company. We use a baseline company, and then we illustrate some various growths in these 5 areas and the impact that has on your bottom line. So let's take the first baseline company. They get 1,000 leads a year, which sounds like a whole lot of leads, but really not that many. They convert 25% of those leads into customers. You're going to hear me say conversion ratios and converting customers. What that means is you have a lead, and that lead actually buys something from you at the end of the day. So in this case, 25% is a pretty good conversion rate. In the digital world, you'll hear people say, you're looking for a 2 to 5% conversion rate. But in reality, if we look at marketing and we look at social media and we look at networking as relationships that we're building over time, you can get a much higher conversion ratio. So to move on with that, more transactions with the customers. They had 10 transactions per year with that customer at an average transaction rate of $100 per transaction, leading to a revenue of $250,000, and with a 25% gross profit, meaning, and if anybody is confused by any of the terms, again, populate the chat box and we'll talk about that as we go. But the gross profit is sort of your first break in profit before we get to general administrative expenses. So it's not your net profit, but your gross profit. So they ended up with a gross profit of $62,500. So with a 10% increase in each of these areas, we can almost double our profit. So look at the 5 areas, look at what we're doing here. We're only increasing the leads by about 100 leads a year, which is really not a bit large increase, a small increase in conversion. And when we're talking about conversion, we're talking about the sales part of the process, not the marketing part of the process. People get marketing and sales sort of confused sometimes. Marketing is about getting the word out there and getting people to notice us. Sales is about when they notice us and reach out, converting them into customers. So we increased that by about 2.5%, one more transaction per year, a 10% increase in price, 10% increase in gross profit, and we get $100,000 worth of bottom line profit. We can do that again, and I promise you, if you focus a little on these areas, you can literally get a 50% or better increase, which is a 700+% increase in bottom line profit. And that's really where we're going to drive at today, some of the techniques that you can use to get there. These small incremental increases, or even the 50% increase, can be achieved without spending a whole lot of money on marketing. We'll talk a little bit later about it, but if you want, the question I would throw out to you guys, and you can sort of populate some of it into the chat box, is how many people are spending more money than they would like on marketing with less results than they would like. So if you have that, put a yeah, that includes me, and we'll sort of look to that in a few minutes. So we're going to start at marketing, right? What is marketing? Marketing is about entering the conversation in the head of your customer and connecting with them, right? Understanding what it is they want and how to get it to them. In a blog I did just recently, I quoted a stat which really boggled my mind when I read it. It was how many ads, advertisements, and/or slogans and/or signage do we see as an average American on a daily basis? And again, use the chat box, put your guess in there. We'll talk a little bit about what the number is after a slide or two. But the long and the short of it is, you're competing with a lot of other people that are doing messaging out there, and you need to do a good job in order to be able to get their attention. So in order to enter that conversation in the buyer's mind, we need to do a few things. We need to talk about the problem they have that they don't want, and the solution they want, but they don't have. I'm going to say that again, just because it's so important. It's the problem they have that they don't want, and the solution that they want that they don't have, right? So America is the largest consumer of goods in the world, right? So the people we're selling to, I'm assuming some people sell internationally, so but let's focus on the US for now. We buy a lot of goods, we buy a lot of stuff, right? Many other companies want to sell to the American market because we're a huge consumer of goods. But people don't like to be sold to. So really, your challenge is to get them to buy your goods without hard selling them, without getting out there and really saying, hey, buy me, hey, everybody has to sell at some point or another, so don't get me wrong. But you really cannot get too salesy when you're trying to enter this conversation in this person's head. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is called the conversion equation. And I'm going to challenge you right now to think about whether you have your messaging right or not, right? This is all about our message. And if we don't have our message right, if we don't have that message that's going to connect with the conversation that's inside the buyer's head, then we're wasting our marketing dollars. Your chances of getting a good marketing flow, good lead flow, and then a good conversion from there are very, very, very small. So you open your business, you go out, you look at your competition, you decide, how am I different than them? And you try to get a message out there. And ultimately, in the next few slides, we're going to look at some websites they're what I call Me Too marketing, right? Everybody, it's the same stuff. It's nothing differentiating them. I often talk about Domino's Pizza as an example of getting your message and getting your niche right. If everybody's had Domino's Pizza, I'm sure most of us have. It's not the best pizza on the market. It's not the most tasty pizza you've ever had, but they're a $17 billion pizza company. So what did they do effectively? What they did effectively was get their message to a very small niche, a very small market segment, and really hit it on the nose, right? Fast pizza when you want it, 30 minutes or less, or you get it for free, right? So they aimed at that university and college and high school group where they needed their pizza and they needed it fast. They didn't build big storefronts. They had the whole business built around aiming at a small segment of the market versus the overall market. We need to sell to everyone. So when we're going through this stuff today, I want you to really start to think about, I don't need to sell to everyone. There's a lot of people in the country. We need to sell to somebody, and we need to sell to somebody really well. We really need to hit that conversation that they're having in their head. So when you're thinking about your messaging, the first thing you need to do is you need to interrupt that customer, because they're inundated with all of these other messaging that goes out there. So you have to have a headline that states the problem they're having that they don't want, right? It could be, sometimes it's a picture, right? The picture tells a story. Well, I'll show you an example of this in a case study we did in a minute. And the picture tells the entire story. Words are great, but they really need to hit the mark on the head. Once you've stopped them, once they've actually noticed your advertisement, whether it be online or in mailers or direct mail or whatever the case may be, now you need to engage them, and you need to engage them by talking about the solution that they want that they don't have. So remember this when you're sitting down and you're thinking about, what am I going to send out for my next ad? You need to interrupt them with the problem. You need to identify quickly with the person the problem they're having, and then offer them the solution that they want very succinctly. Then, once we have them engaged, we can begin to educate. We begin to send them information or text or video or whatever format we may have that sort of explains why our solution is the solution that they want. And finally, you need to have an offer of some sort. So we're going to go through a couple of websites right now and talk about what works and what doesn't work. And then what I'll do is I'll pause after that, to collect some questions. So if you have questions as we go, jump them in there, put them in the chat box, and we'll go through them as we go. So here's Gary Bussing, right? Gary Bussing is a retirement consultant. Here's his typical website. We all have them. We all have websites that have the nice little tabs up top and some sort of banners or whatever that might be going on in there. But what is Gary really saying to the person coming to his website? What's his offer? What's he giving us? What's the problem that he's solving, right? There's a lot of good text about who Gary is and all his credentials. But unless you're specifically looking for a retirement consultant, very unlikely that this website is going to get you the attention that Gary wants it to get you. Here's another example of a chiropractor who has an acupuncture part of his practice, and it's interesting. I'm just working with an acupuncturist who's partnering with chiropractic care. So for you guys who have lower back pain or joint pain, apparently chiropractic care and acupuncture go very, very well together. Just a side note. But I honestly I've had this slide in this presentation and in the book for a while and never realized why they combine the two. Pretty cool. But when you look at this, again, this website, you see a really nice looking crew of people here. They're very attractive people, but you're really not understanding, it's not really popping to say, hey, why do you want to do this? So we did a case study with a Dr. John Smith, and yes, his name has been changed, so because he didn't want his name all over the internet. but this is an actual child psychologist who had this exact website. And we started to work with him to say, hey, we're going to try a different technique, and we're going to see what kind of differences we might have with the results, with getting more customers through the door. Super sharp guy. He's got this little thing down here that says all of the articles that he has, and he's very intelligent. He's got a lot of really great information. He also deals with a lot of different types of problems. You'll see down in the center section here. So we all fall into this category in that we try to solve all of the problems of the world with our website, right? So what we need to start thinking about is, how do we get messages to people individually? So what we did is we took each one of these, and I'm going to only show you one example, otherwise we'd be here all day. And we created a squeeze page. So for the emotionally disturbed child, we created a single page. Some people call it a landing page. We call it a squeeze page because it sort of squeezes the message out. And the picture, as I said, pictures tell a lot. If you have a belligerent child at home, you're going to recognize this guy. And what we do is we do three things, right? We state the problem they're having. Are you sick and tired of the yelling, screaming, and belligerent attitude of your child? Then we give them a little small look at the solution. Now you're going to discover the secrets to controlling your child, instantly restoring peace and quiet to your home. And then finally, there's an offer that says, hey, get the secrets to gaining and maintaining complete control of your child in less than 60 seconds. And all you need to do is give me your name and email. So hopefully you see the difference between a website, which is filled with information, chock filled. Everybody needs a website, there's no question. But it's really not the best place to send people when you're trying to reach that specific person that you're selling to. And I work with a bunch of clients who say, how many ads am I going to put out there? How can I do, so many squeeze pages? It's really about getting focused on that niche again. There's a guy named John Nemo he's a LinkedIn lead generation guy, pretty prolific on LinkedIn. If you look him up, he's very interesting. He actually has a book called LinkedIn Riches, which is well worth the read. And what he talks again about niching it down, getting yourself focused on that customer where your messaging is crisp and you're really hitting on what it is they want. So here's just another example. We had a couple of tries at the squeeze page, same thing, basically different picture, different presentation. So we went back and we did one of these for each one of those areas that he was involved in, and the results were pretty astounding. We're going to go through them right now. So originally, without our assistance, he was doing pretty well. He wasn't doing poorly at all. He was getting about 300 leads per month. He was converting about 10% of those people who asked about that consultation. 3 of those, another 10%, took the consultation, and one or all of those became patients. So it's basically about a 1 to 2% conversion rate from lead to customer. So I want you to constantly think about conversion rate. I want you to think about, in your business, monitoring that as a key performance indicator. The next book that I'm writing is on the effectiveness of key performance indicators in your business. And key performance indicators are those numbers, that data that you look at to say, how am I doing? And in marketing, conversion rate is very, 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 very important key performance indicator. The response rate is important. The click-through rate is important. If everybody knows these, knows these or not, but you need to have certain parameters in your business that you look at on a regular basis, that you monitor and say, what's happening. Too many business owners look backwards, right? They look, hey, we look at the P&L at the end of the month, if that. Some people don't even do that, but if we're looking at the end of the month, it already happened. There's not a lot we can do about it, right? We've made money, we've lost money. we achieve the revenue goals that we've had or we haven't. In the marketing world, it's about making sure you achieve those goals by valuing the each customer. You know, how much is the customer worth to me? How much does it cost for me to capture that customer? And so these are the KPIs that you really should be looking at on a regular basis. So anyway, he was doing fairly well. When we put him into the squeeze page, first round, we were able to get that lead count up to 400 and 80%, 20% conversion rate, which was double what he was getting. 10% of those converted into customers, ultimately raising his revenue instantly by about $80,000 per year. So the impact of a squeeze page or landing page compared to a website is pretty significant. And how do you do a landing page, right? Everybody's, well, what do I do? How do I do it? You can do it in a number of different ways. A landing page doesn't necessarily even need to be on your web page. It can be in your CRM if you're using a CRM, a customer relational database, right? Some management database. Or it can even be in your email marketing tool that you use. Like if anybody uses MailChimp or that kind of thing, you can create landing pages right in there. So when somebody send an email out, you send a link back, they really link back right to MailChimp, and there's a landing page there that you can use. So, or it can actually be one of the tabs on your web page. So rather than sending them to the home page, you're sending them directly back to that tab. So now I see we populated some things in the chat box. I'm going to pause here for a second to see if anybody has questions on messaging. But the answer to the number of ads we see per day is between 3,500 and 10,000. And I've just read another ad the other day that it could be as many as 30,000 if we include logos and signage. So I literally went out before I wrote the blog. I'm a sort of a, data nut. And I said, you know what, I'm going to journal my own daily experience and see what I had. And lo and behold, I saw somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 ads per day. Saw, heard, whatever, every one of those. So pretty interesting. But the point is, in advertising and marketing, the market is pretty crazy saturated out there, right? There's a lot of noise that goes on a daily basis for folks. And it's easy to just tune it out. I mean, just really easy to do it. So there's a study out there that says, so for that reason, because there's so much noise and there's so much coming at us on a regular basis, a customer needs to see between 20 and 100 times they need to see your company in order to actually engage with your company. With the conversion equation, we've done a subsequent study, a much smaller sampling, and we've seen it as low as 5 to 12. But when you think about it, it's still 5 to 12, right? They're not going to buy the first time they see something from you, the first email that you send out to them. So, what do? I see there's another question there. I just took a look at the stuff right in front of me on my desk, and I could probably count 50. Oh, that's from Ronnie. Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy how many things are out there. So, and the reason you're not getting them on the first bite is because a buyer is on a journey, right? If we're not buying something transactionally, excuse me, and transactionally, when I mean transactionally, I mean going out and buying some eggs or some milk, excuse me, or gas for the car, we're thinking about it, right? People they're looking for the best value, and I promise you that doesn't mean price always. Value, people buy value, they don't buy price. You need to make the case to your customer as to why your solution, your product, your service is the one they want to buy. And if you don't believe that people don't buy price, they buy value, then you need to read the book on the history of Starbucks, right? Starbucks is, amazingly can get 3 to 5 times what the deli gets for their cup of coffee. Because they created a niche, they created an environment of coffee, they created a culture of coffee. So there's absolutely a way for any business out there to create that feeling, that desire for a customer to buy their product. So when you're sending information out to them, not selling, you need to be educating them along this journey that they're on to make them understand why your product, why your service is really the best service to have out there. And we call this lead nurturing. And lead nurturing is something that very few people do effectively. Most company owners, because they're spending so much time on the top part of that pie chart, they're just forgetting to really nurture their customer, the lead that comes in, the lead that costs them a fair amount of money to get. If they don't buy on the first time, or they don't bite the first time, they sort of get pushed off to the side and forgotten over time. So the next strategy really is about lead nurturing and how to take that lead that has come in from whatever point that it's come in from and make it pay for yourself. So we call these drip campaigns. This is where your email marketing comes in. This is where your CRM comes in. You can do it via email. You can do it via SMS today. You can do it via social media. There's a lot of ways to do a drip campaign once you've got that captured information that we got back in the day of the offer, right? Remember back on the squeeze page, we captured their information down here. So, and not everybody bought, right? Some people did, some people didn't. So what we did is we created a drip campaign for our child psychologist. We got 400 leads in, which was awesome. 800 people actually gave us their email, and 8 of those became clients. But 72 of those people did not become clients. So what do we do with those? How do we get them to become clients? You put them into a drip campaign, and a drip campaign really is an educational messaging campaign is the better way to explain it. It's not a campaign where you're throwing coupons at them and sales data, buy now, here's our new product. That's not the purpose of a drip campaign. The purpose of a drip campaign is that educational process. Remember, interrupt, engage, and then educate, right? So we want to talk to them while they're on that buyer's journey as to how do I get it done, right? Why do I want to do this? Who do I want to buy from? What should I be looking for? And of course you're accenting your positives, not your negatives when you're in a drip campaign, but you want to make them understand, what's happening. So I'll give you a good example of this. I had a client who sold sunrooms, and sunrooms are an interesting thing to add onto a home. As I loved what I do because I learned so much about different businesses and what the value of those things are. But it's a big decision to put a sunroom on your home. It's pricey, number one, and it's a big add-on, but it brings a lot of value to people's quality of life, right? They can sit in there, the sun comes in, they can have plants in there. It becomes really an environment inside their home on a sunny afternoon that is just, quite enjoyable. So what they did was they created a design document of various projects before and after that they did to various types of homes, and sort of gave a lot of detail as to what it took to do it, what the benefits were afterwards. Some testimonials were built in there. And they broke that big document up into small pieces that they put into a drip campaign, and quite successfully were able to convert, a much larger number of customers than they would have with simple advertising. So anyway, with our child psychologist, we put those leads into the drip campaign, and here's sort of what it looks like. We were converting about 4 of those people or 3 of those people. 3 of those people per month. 72 went in every month. And of course, this is somewhat linear. That didn't exactly work like this. But the result was we were able to get about almost 5,000 touches with customers on an annual basis, which was pretty incredible. Content becomes the problem. I know everybody is. I see another one here says, does cold calling fall into the drip campaign category? No, cold calling is a completely different thing. Cold calling is more like your initial reach out. Once somebody on a cold call says, I'm interested, send me some information, then they go into a drip campaign. So it's the primary is the marketing, the follow, the lead nurturing is once they've showed some sort of interest, right? So I hope that answers that question. So anyway, with those touch points, we were able to, more than double what we got from our initial ad campaign. So we got 96 from the original ad campaign. We got 190 new clients, or $152,000 in additional revenue from the drip campaign. And a drip campaign is 100% automated. It costs you nothing really to do outside of the tool you're using, whether it be MailChimp, or in fact, MailChimp is free until you get over 500 people, I believe, in the funnel. If you're using a CRM, most CRMs have the ability to do drip campaigns. Here's another question: when does follow up to a project? Very good. That's a very, very good question. So here's another one of your. It's a good mix up your technique, iPhone, email. Yep. Okay. Where are we going? Good ways to tell the prospects warming. Okay. So good, very, very, very good question. The question really is, when is, from a drip campaign standpoint, when is too much? So this is where your KPIs come in, right? Those key performance indicators. What you're going to look for in, with drip or SMS, SMS is text for, if everybody, I hope everybody knows that. What you do is you got to watch that unsubscribe KPI. So everybody has to have an unsubscribe these days by law. So very important, because there are people cracking down on that. It depends on how large you are, really, but you're not supposed to be out there soliciting people without a way for them to get out, right? Although many people do. It's so you watch that unsubscribe, right? You got to find that right frequency. It's a very, very, very good question. Is it good to mix stuff up where we're doing some in email and some in text? Absolutely. But again, you don't want to overwhelm them. And the key is you don't want to sell to them. You're not selling them, right? You're getting people who are genuinely interested in doing something with your product category, and you're educating them on the category very generically. You're not saying, buy from us, here's why we're better. Here's why this is done our way. It's, hey, here's some examples of the do's and don'ts for buying from, a sunroom company. Somebody on there before, I think, was a consultant. So it's, here's why you use a consultant. Here's the benefits of using a consultant generically, right? Here's what you should be thinking about in your business. And if you're not, maybe you need to reach out to help, and consultants are a good answer for that. So it's you'll get very, very much lower of unsubscribe if you do it in that fashion. And I hope that answers that question. So any questions on drip campaigns outside of those? Because that was that's very effective tool. I mean, an amazingly effective tool to use. We all get a lot of leads. Leads cost money, right? We're putting some dollars out there, whether that be advertising or just plain old sweat equity, and it costs us time. If you're working social media, if you're working whatever, it's hard work. Marketing is hard work, and certainly if you're outsourcing it, you're spending a fair amount of money on it. So I agree. So many businesses simply do not follow up. 100%. 100%. How many times have you really been interested in some company and they just ghost you, right? What happened to these guys? I was interested in a callback, right? So very, very interesting. Very interesting. And people get busy. It really is. They get busy. Their business is growing too quickly. They don't have the right amount of staff, whatever the case may be. On that note, I don't want to, I've got a few things more to cover here, and I'm running out of time here. So, VAs or virtual assistants are a very effective way to sort of lay off some of that mundane work that you do. Marketing is one of those, the outreach, the postings, the whatever, and very inexpensive. You can get somebody overseas for, in the $10 an hour range or less. So very effective. So the next strategy that we're going to talk about is, and it's really three in one: up, down, and cross-selling, right? This is an amazing way to bring more revenue into your business without really having to do anything extra from a marketing standpoint. There's a study that says 34% of buyers will make an additional or alternative purchase at the time of the initial purchase if they're simply asked to do so. So the question is, are you doing that, right? Is there a way for you to take a lead who maybe can't afford your top product and get them in the door with an alternative to that top product, or add on a product on the way out the door? Those of you online that are in e-commerce, Shopify has the called the candy rack option, where when you're checking out, just like when you go to the pharmacy or you go to the wherever, there's those little things that you're like, oh, that's cool, let me pick one of those up, right? You wasn't thinking about it, but I think I'd like to get that. Amazon does a great job of it. You're looking at something and, hey, here's what goes along with that product. They literally put it on the bottom, right, and give you a price for it. So we see upselling, downselling, cross-selling used in life all the time. If you've ever gone into a McDonald's or Burger King and ordered a hamburger and a soda, the first thing that the 17-year-old cashier behind asks you is, what? Do you want to supersize that? Do you want a larger one so I can charge you more money, is basically what they're asking you. Or if that doesn't work, they ask you, do you want an apple pie with that? That's a cross-sell, right? Downsell is a little different. We'll talk about it in a minute, but downselling is, hey, they couldn't afford your top product, so you give them an alternative to buy something else while they're there with you. And so many people make so much extra money in their business by employing this effectively throughout the team that's working in the organization. So it's very rare that the owner is in a situation. I mean, if you're sole proprietor, it's very possible you're one of the people that can do that. But it's very rare the owner gets involved in this conversation. It's really more the frontline people, the cashier, the somebody who's working the store, or somebody who's in your customer service line, whatever the case may be. So it's important to train them on these techniques. Again, it's part of that sales process. So here's a good example of downselling. We've all been there. You go to the gym, it's January. Some of us are in the mode. We're ready. We've got our New Year's resolution. We want to lose some weight. We're going to get back to the gym. We're going to get healthy again. And you go to the gym and the manager walks you around. It's a really cool place. And he lays it on you that it's going to cost you $80 a month or $50 a month. Or you go to Equinox, it's, $300-400 a month. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a lot. I wasn't thinking about that. I'm not sure I'm going to use it. So the first thing he does is he downsells you, right? He gives you a 90-day makeover for a much better price, and to see if he can get you to bite. If he doesn't get you to bite on that, he does a 1-week trial membership that you can jump in on. So it's a way to keep that lead connected until they get them to buy something. Flowers, we've all been there. You go in to buy your wife some roses, and $50 is a very low price, but probably more like $150 these days. And you're like, wow, that's way more than I wanted to expend. And so they give you an alternative. I can give you the bouquet of the wildflowers, and that should work out. That should work out fine for you. And so with one of those $25 down sales per day, a florist could pick up as much as $8,000 a year, which is it's just easy money. It's money that you didn't think maybe would happen, but the customer's engaged. They're there. They want to buy. They're sending you the signal that I want to buy something. So you want to try and have alternatives for them to do that. So remember, upselling, higher grade, cross-selling, complementary product. So let me tell you a story about a hair salon. So hair salons are notorious for getting people in, getting people out. But if you look around in there, they always are selling their shampoos, their conditioners, their detanglers, whatever it is. Obviously I don't go to a hair salon all that often anymore, but there's great opportunity for a hair salon to add extra revenue to their business, an actual revenue stream outside of the salon by creating an online store that sells the products that they sell when you're there to continue looking good when, before you come back for that haircut. So the hair salons, most of them are the better ones anyway, have gone to creating a Shopify store or some sort of an e-marketing store where not only can you do that, you can actually book your next appointment. It's a way to stay connected with that person, so they're coming back time and time again. But it's most of them are making more money on the products they sell, the complementary cross-sell, that add-on complementary product, than the product of cutting hair itself. And it's way more profitable. So some of you on the line are saying, well, there's no opportunity really for me to upsell or cross-sell. It's just my business doesn't do that. So I'm going to tell you a little story now about a dental office that we worked with. And, dentists have a unique problem. Very rarely will somebody change their dentist, right? Once you get comfortable with the dentist, you typically stay with that person because I don't know many people who would really enjoy going to the dentist, but certainly I do not. But it's you don't change them because you're comfortable. They're doing a good job. And so for a dentist to build their business, it's difficult. Difficult to get new people in the door. What they rely on is the children of the customers that they currently have, and as they grow out of the pediatric mode, if they don't offer pediatric dental services, they pick up the kids, and so it's a generational kind of thing. And let's face it, the dentist doesn't make a lot of money on cleaning. The real money is on, the root canals and the cosmetic services, the crowns, the fillings, the braces, that kind of thing. So what we did is we went out, we did a survey, and we uncovered an interesting fact that, yes, they were correct. Most people are not willing to change, but while 85% of people have medical insurance, only about 50% have dental insurance. We then drilled down into the people who didn't have dental insurance and found that 44% of those folks didn't go to the dentist, basically because they said, I can't afford it, I don't have dental insurance. So we created this opportunity, we created this upsell opportunity for the dentist by allowing them to offer dental cleanings, basic routine cleaning and maintenance, x-rays, exams, etc., for about their cost, for about $25, which is what a typical copay for an insurance would be. And in doing that, they got people to come in, get their cleaning, get their exams, and of course, it's rare you go to the dentist where, especially if you haven't been there in a long time, where there's not an opportunity for them to then upsell something else while they're there. You see it every day in the automotive industry, the quick $99 or whatever it is, oil changes. And when you're in to do the oil change, you need wiper blades. They rotated your tires, and so that your brake pads are low. And there's something else for them to sell you while you're there. So I want to pause here for a second and have you think about your business and think about what the opportunities are for upselling, cross-selling, and downselling. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the next one we're going to move into is joint ventures. And, lots of people think joint ventures are, they're not for me. That's for big companies. That's a big word. I'm not sure I could use downselling a cleaning. Well, I would say on the cleaning company, downselling might be do with frequency, right? Hey, you can come every week, you're going to come every month, I'll do it every other month. There's some way for you to get that person in the door who's thinking, I can't afford it every week. It's just too much for me. I'll do the heavy clean once a month, you do the rest kind of thing. That's an opportunity to downsell. Cross-sell in the cleaning business, huge opportunity in that the cleaning products that you use while you're there, great opportunity for them to buy those products. I had a company who was a cleaning company who used, I don't know if they call it green or organic or whatever it was. But they were selling those products, so they were great products. They were good for the environment, and you could buy them directly from them online. Huge revenue stream over time. People really liked it. It was, hey, there was another guy who had it has a very specific glass cleaner that didn't streak, and the guy loved the way he did their shower doors. So always an opportunity if you're thinking outside the box. Other things that you can add on. I could go on and on, but I won't keep going there. So my book, I'll give you, I'm going to give you my name and email at the end. You could shoot me a quick email. I'll send you a link, or I'll send it to Ronnie, and Ronnie will send it off to you guys, because you have the email. So anyway, joint ventures really is a simple definition for joint ventures. Do you have any experience with IT companies? Absolutely. So my background, I didn't get deep into it. So I ran a clinical engineering company, and a clinical engineering company is a company that sells technical services to healthcare for the most part. IT service was part of that. So I ran a company for about 25 years doing that. So it's a service companies are sort of my specialty for sure. So joint ventures involve two or more businesses that decide to form a partnership to share markets or endorse products back and forth, really. And usually there's some sort of revenue share that goes into it. The key to creating a good, how to do a short-term JV without going into formal partnership. Great. We're going to talk about that in a big way. So you can really boil it down, right? A joint venture doesn't need to be this big contract. It's really a matter of forming a relationship with another company where you're going to do something together but the key is you're selling to the same customer, right? So let me give you an example of a landscaping company that I worked with. They were a landscape design company. They did just unbelievable, spectacular work. But they didn't do landscape lighting. It wasn't something they got involved in. They didn't have an expertise for it. So they formed a relationship, a very, very loose relationship with a landscape lighting company where they could include their product and their service in with their landscaping. So immediately the price of every job went from I forget where it was priced out, but basically they got about a 30 to 40% bump in revenue with every job, with a instant hit to the bottom line because none of the expense was theirs. It was all part of the landscape lighting company. So I think they were picking up a 20% margin on the entire job. The landscape lighting company was delighted to have the relationship with that person. Because every time they sold a landscape design job, and they were quite popular landscape design company, they included their landscape lighting. And so that's as simple as it can be. It doesn't need to be a heavy contract. It doesn't need to be something that requires you to do any of that kind of stuff. So let me get into. I'm going to go through right now a very simple one, which is what we call an event chain joint venture relationship. And I'm going to use the wedding industry, as an example. The wedding industry is a great example of this, but many people are involved in an event chain of some sort. So you've got to think about it. But I also want you to remember, there's large opportunities. So one of the strategies that I talk to a lot of my customers about is if you're a company, like an IT company, for example, and you're already selling to B2B certain companies, is there even a franchise that you could bolt on to your company to grow your company for a very, very low expense, add-on expense? Or is there a partner company out there that you can add on to your company to increase your value and your presence and your number of transactions per year with your client, that and gain revenue at the same time? So these are like companies. They don't need to be large or small. They need to have your same culture, your same customer service orientation. But those are the kind of relationships that you want to talk about. The one I'm going to talk about right now is really more of a referral relationship from one company to the other. So in an event chain, and here in the wedding industry, we dealt with a florist. The florist is sort of in the middle of the chain. You've got the jeweler, the wedding planner, the church and chapel reception, wedding dress and like above, and wedding cake printers below. And God knows my daughter just got married in August. There's many, many, many more vendors that I paid for sure. So everyone above the florist is in a perfect position to refer business to the florist. And everyone below the florist is in a perfect position to receive business from the florist. Excuse me, just taking a little water. So everyone has the opportunity to take the client who comes in their door and refer them to a select group of people that they're comfortable with and that they have a reciprocal joint venture referral relationship with. And in this case, if they could obtain one referral from each of the people above and give one referral to each of the people below, there's a significant opportunity for them to add revenue to their company with very, very little expense. And again, remember, this is marketing. There's no question. This is marketing. This is networking. This is the opportunity for you to, find business without going onto the social media or digital world at all, right? You're going to network with people. And when you are on social media, you want to be talking to those people who are selling to the same clients that you are, right? You want to try to, running past 10, you could leave. I want to remind you. Okay, sorry, Ronnie. I didn't think we were going to run this late. We're almost done. So if you're on social media, you can, you really can find these people and form really, really strong relationships with them. So in this case, if the average price of the florist's wedding flowers are $3,000 and they receive one referral per month from somebody above them, it's $36,000 in extra revenue for them with really hardly any expense. They're just sharing some of the top line with them. And conversely, if they do it below, they're getting $3,000 or $3,600 a month. If they're passing that referral down, and the referral fee is clean, there's no cost in it whatsoever. It costs them nothing to do it. It's straight profit, drops right to the bottom line. And likewise with the printer. So all of that adds up to about an extra $40,000 per year. And it's it's a great way. It's a great way to gain extra revenue. So I'm going to stop there. There was one extra slide, but I'll skip that slide for now. Just very quickly, there's something called a lead magnet. 5 things every bride should know about avoiding disaster on their wedding day. The lead magnets are great things to use. These are also great things to break up into your posts and your social media reach outs and your email drip campaigns. So think about designing one, grabbing one, getting one, we talked about Word Hero, if somebody was on while we were there, and some of these AI tools, you can literally have the AI tool write this thing for you and then use it as a lead magnet for people who are going to want to download it. So with that, I'm going to conclude. That's my phone number, my email. I'll send, as I said, I'll send information to Ronnie. I will give her a copy of this presentation and a link to where you can download the book.